Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Inside the OC podcast. My name is Matt Cannizzaro, and we are stopping by for episode number 14 today, and another great show in the works. Looking forward to talking to this gentleman. But first, let me bring in my co-host for this twice weekly podcast, Daniel Farish. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, Matt. Are we really on episode 14?
I believe that's the number. I can't believe it, though. It's time is flying. I said that earlier this week.
That's 7 weeks worth of episodes. I can't believe it. We've had some great guests on, and this next one, not that I'm looking forward to this guy any more than the other 13, but I know there are some stories both on the lanes and off the lanes that include some desserts. I know he's a foodie, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, and he's also well known for being a fashion-forward guy, and that very much is evident as he popped on our screen here today when we said hello at first. For the rest of you out there, again, welcome to the Inside the OC podcast. Let's bring in today's guest, the fashion-forward John Janawicz.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
There he is. All right, the USBC Hall of Famer coming to you live from Kegel, the Kegel Training Center down in Winter Haven, Florida. And there it is. Always safety first, of course. JJ, How are you today?
Yeah, good. Yeah, we just got these things today, little Kegel masks here. They're pretty nice. So, doing okay. Doing okay. No complaints. So
excellent. Well, usually we'll start each show with just talking about kind of what our guests have been up to and how things are going during this wacky time. I know for you especially, you spend most of the year on the road out there serving the sport of bowling. Right now you're sitting in your office back just for the first time this week, actually, just a couple days in. Tell everybody kind of what you've been up to, what life has been like for you in Florida, and of course, now that you're back in the office, what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, working from home is still weird. I mean, it really is. But like I said, just been kind of trying to stay busy as much as you can. Like I said, we just got back to work this Monday, so that's been kind of nice. And we've been mostly spending the week cleaning. We were kind of working on like partial schedules where you work a couple days a week, then you work back from home, 3 days a week, and we kind of rotate schedules. So like I said, we just started this week, so mostly been spending the week cleaning up and getting the place clean, and at the same time also it's a good time to throw out some junk and stuff that's kind of accumulated over time. Same thing with my condo as well too. So but yeah, that's kind of what we've been done so far this week. And like I said, just working at home, doing a lot of email, but I mean there really hasn't been a whole lot of stuff to really do because I mean a lot of the centers are closed, so I mean there haven't been as far as tech support calls, there haven't been a lot of calls in, and so we've been kind of just doing a lot of maintenance, looking over parts catalogs and some of our manuals and stuff, making sure that those are all, pretty tight, and just a lot of preventive maintenance more than anything else. So.
Well, outside of being a Hall of Famer and a champion and a former Team USA member, you do stay pretty busy, as we said, working there at Kegel, traveling the world. As far as what you get to do, you're also, one of the smartest guys in the business, especially as it comes to lane patterns and lane play. And just tell everyone what a typical day, a typical year is like for you in your real job. And then, of course, we'll talk about knocking down pins and all the great places we've got to travel from the bowling side of it.
Yeah, I'd say like 60 to 65% of my job is tech support, phone tech support. So where, people call in, they have trouble, can't get their lane machine to run. I'm one of about 6 guys that they call to take care of that. If they need pattern help, they can't get their house pattern to score high enough, or they're trying to develop a pattern specifically for their tournaments. I'm one of basically about 3 guys that they'd call for that. And that's about like 60 to 65% of my job. The other 30% of the job is basically being on the road, taking care of lane maintenance for some of the tournaments for the, some of the different organizations that we have, contractual obligations to, such as some of the USBC tournaments, World Bowling, European 10-pin Bowling Federation, Asian Bowling Federation. We'll take care of a lot of their lane maintenance for their championships. So I'll probably spend about, on average, depending on the year, anywhere between 120 to 200 days out of the year on the road. And then the other 5% will be, like I said, maybe doing a few seminars here and there, a few workshops, done some seminars, many seminars over the years for a few different colleges. So, I mean, that's kind of basically what, kind of makes up for my year for the most part. But yeah, like I said, not a lot of travel right now. So I think I've traveled twice so far this year. And actually, I was at the ITCs in New Jersey right before they pulled the plug. So that was my last travel trip and haven't been anywhere since. But yeah, between that and team trials, that was it.
All right, now Kegel is the official late maintenance provider for USBC. So as you mentioned, we'll see at some events here and there that we run. Also, you welcomed in some of our management team into the Kegel facility there to tell them about all the great products and how things work, which was pretty awesome. The reviews were terrific there.
Good.
We appreciate all the support there from Kegel. But during this wacky time as well, you guys are doing some things that maybe the bowling fans don't actually know about, kind of the other side of Kegel. Can you tell us some of the things, of course, that you're allowed to talk about, and some of the things that have come out of that building that have really helped during this time?
Yeah, I mean, since we make like basically like sanitizers and disinfectants and things like that. I mean, we were able to stay open even though there really wasn't a lot of business to be done. But one of the things though that we've been doing though is our main chemist Dennis Shears is he's actually been working on a disinfectant for many years. Actually about six years now, and actually it's going to be put out for sale here very shortly. It's called Micro Striker, and basically it's going to be a way to get the house balls clean, and also it'll be a disinfectant as well to be able to work on tables and be able to like I said sanitize different parts, all different aspects of the bowling center. And also we're also partnering with another company to basically make shoe buddies, which basically would be almost like basically like covers that basically go over your regular shoes. So they'll provide an alternative for rental shoes, basically, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people now aren't going to be real comfortable wanting to put their feet in rental shoes now. So they're just trying to provide alternatives and different things to try to help the industry, because like I say, industry's going to probably need a little help getting going here. Once we finally are able to to break loose and start opening things up again.
No, I think one of the biggest questions for you, Daniel, already mentioned you as a dessert connoisseur and a workout guy as well. I know we ran into each other a few times. I know it doesn't show here, but for you in the weight room at the World Cup, you're very diligent in your routine and very focused. Definitely not there to talk. But in this crazy time while you're at home, not traveling, how's the dessert game in Winter Haven, Florida? I guess is probably the one question people are going to ask today. And if it's any good, how do you maintain the JJ physique during all this home quarantine?
It's not the greatest. It's not the greatest. I still travel to Orlando and Tampa for cookies and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a challenge trying to stay stay on the routine more than anything else. Obviously, the gyms are closed here, so we're gonna have to just trying to make do with home workouts. But Heather DeRico's been great. She's been working with me and a few other players as well on the Train Heroic app, and giving us some workouts and things that we can do while we're at home. And a lot of those workouts have been great. And but at the same time, I was actually I was needing a break anyway, because and I'd taken a little bit of time away from the gym. I've just kind of done very minimal stuff because my last few gym sessions or whatnot, I almost kind of feel like I was maybe overtraining a little bit to a degree, where I was doing bench presses and I was actually feeling a little bit of shoulder pain in the left shoulder. So I was getting to a point where I kind of feel like I needed to take a break. So just the way things worked out with everything, it just kind of lended itself for me to be able to take some time off. But I've probably estimated I've probably lost at least 5 pounds since I've been been on this little quarantine here. So
back under 100. That's how about that?
Not exactly. But yeah, not quite as good as shape as I was at the World Cup, though. Yeah, I was feeling pretty. I was pretty slim at that point, but still, I've done okay. The pants still fit, and they got a little bit of space in them, so I can't complain a whole lot there.
All right. Well, now at almost 50 years old, you still got it. You've proven that. You had success in 2019, of course, winning the USBC Team USA trials, and nobody would guess that you're just a couple of years away from the PBA Senior Tour, potentially the PBA 50. So that's great. I want to bring in Daniel here. I have a few questions for him before we really dig in to your bowling career. Mr. Farish, as the youngster here. Now, I know JJ going back to my youth bowling days in Florida, and I've gotten to watch him from when he had no eagles to now having 3. But as far as his legacy and what you've experienced at the Open Championships and seen in the record books, What are your impressions of Mr. Janawicz, and how much were you looking forward to this conversation? Probably as much as I was, I'm sure.
Multiple reasons I was looking forward to this conversation. First and foremost, because like JJ, I am a fat kid in a skinny guy's body. So the discussion of food and desserts certainly was the top of my list. But I mean, the more intriguing thing about JJ for me was back when I just knew him as John Janawicz, because I didn't know how to pronounce his last name, much less spell it, was I always saw this guy's name at the top of Team USA events, the Open Championships, big amateur tournaments. And I was like, man, this guy just competes in everything and wins everything. I knew he was a Florida guy. Didn't know that he was so old to be beating all these young guys. But yeah, I was looking forward to this one. All kidding aside about the desserts, to learn more about the legacy of JJ. And we got an opportunity. I first met him at the BowlerX.com PWBA Orlando Open back in August or September of last year, and had a really good conversation with him off the Bowl TV airwaves. And he joined me in the booth for a couple of games. And that's when I realized, hey, this guy's not just a player, he's smart. I mean, there are people that can just throw the ball, and they throw the ball and they come back and they're just dumb in the pit area. JJ's smart both on the lanes and off the lanes. And I'm hoping to pick his brain about some stuff and learn a little bit about him throughout this podcast.
All right. We're definitely looking forward to all the great stories.
By the way, too. So I'll keep those checks coming in. So that's all right. I appreciate it. Yeah.
JJ pays in chocolate-covered candy.
You're coming next month. So thanks, man. So
all right. Well, as one of the smartest guys, JJ surrounded himself with some of the smartest and best in the sport, especially getting into his Open Championships career, and some of the names: Pete Couture, Larry Lichstein, Michael Lichstein. There was a Ricky Ward sighting one year as well, the talented left-hander from Florida as well. JJ, we'll dive right into the start of your OC career back in 1991, Toledo, Ohio. And it's been a minute. You're at 30 years now, coming up here in 2020. But tell us about the start to the career. It was a great start. You had a great year, a great couple of years even. And then you surrounded yourself again with some great guys to show you the way. Talk about that and some of the leadership that you enjoyed early in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I was recruited by Skip Hintz, longtime bowling proprietor here in Florida, owned shore lanes and river lanes for many years. And he asked me to be on his USBC team because he was needing a spot. And I mean, I think I was 17 at the time. And I didn't have much money. I was pretty much broke, I mean, and he's like, don't worry, we'll work things out, So I ended up driving with Jim Follis, one of my friends. We ended up driving to Toledo, Ohio from Florida. It took us like about 19 hours. But I went there with like $300 in my pocket to include like hotel and food and everything. And, and it was a great experience. And we started out the Bowler's Journal. And, because I guess that, that's what the team did. We warmed up at the Bowler's Journal, usually the day before. And then, kind of got comfortable with the place, went to the convention center, and then we bowled the next couple of days, and actually ended up bowling the Bowler's Journal, and didn't have any money. Like I said, he's like, Skip was like, do you want to bowl? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, love the bowl. He goes, I mean, I just don't have any money. I'm like, yeah, I'll put you in. I'm like, all right, no problem. So I bowled, and I think the Insta Cash was like 1025 or something like that year, because that was the 5 games, and I shot 1032, so I got my money back. So I was like, do I bowl again? And I'm like, I was like, yeah, go ahead and bowl again. Well, I shot 1225 and I ended up winning the tournament. So, after it all was said and done, and then I ended up shooting like 1961, I think, that first year, 1960, the first year for my USBC. So, I mean, I was off to a good start, and, I learned a lot, then had like 2091 the next year in Corpus Christi. And, but I was surrounded by some really great players. I bowled with, Skip Hintz, Jim Pault, a longtime, really great player from Milwaukee, Jack Connaughton from Kansas, who, I mean, he won the World Cup in '67. So, I mean, I was surrounded, Skip Tucker bowled on the companion team. He made the Masters show a couple of years. I know he finished second before in the Masters. I mean, so I've been surrounded by a lot of good players. And then, it kind of morphed as, the years went on. I ended up bowling with, Pete Couture came on board, and, I bowled doubles with him for probably like 6, 7, 8 years or something like that. I mean, always had a great time. We didn't bowl great, but I mean, we had a great time, and then went on to bowl with the Lichsteins and Ricky Ward, and then like I said, in most recent, bowling with John Gaines and Mitch Jebzinski and those guys, over the last few years or so. So it's been quite a run. It's been quite a run. But being able to learn from all those guys was really the big thing. I've always said that you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with, and fortunately, I was surrounded by a lot of people I was able to learn a lot from.
Well, I don't know if you saw Daniel's eyes light up there and as you were talking, but Daniel, if there's anybody who's going to know numbers and years and locations and all the details, it's going to be this gentleman. He'll probably be able to tell you what ball he was throwing, how it was laid out, what surface it was, where he was standing, and it might even still be under his desk, to be honest. There's quite a few bowling balls under there, so I know that's your wheelhouse.
Well, back in high school and throughout college, my mom used to always give me hell because I could remember my individual sets at junior gold and what ball I threw, and sometimes even what game I made a ball change in the middle of a set, but I couldn't remember, my history class or my science class, or my grades were slipping, but I knew all my bowling history. And JJ, I got to ask, and I ask this of every guest we have. Matt's kind of the eternal optimist, and I'm the eternal pessimist. But I want to show our viewers at home that all these greats, all these superstars, all these studs can trip over their own feet every once in a while. The first 2 years, you nailed it, by the way, 1960, 2091, and then your third year in Tulsa, 1646. That was your only set under 1700 and one of only three sets, under 17 or under 1800. What happened with that 1646?
Yeah, I actually can tell you about that because I was at UCF, University of Central Florida at that time, and I hadn't been bowling well to begin with. And literally, I went straight from my last exam in Orlando, straight from there right to the airport and then right to Tulsa. And I just wasn't really in a bowling frame of mind, on top of the fact that I wasn't bowling good to begin with. So, I just got there and, other than the fact that I didn't execute well, I didn't make very good spares, and I made bad moves. Other than that, I bowled great. But, that was just one of those train wreck tournaments all the way around. I mean, it was just bad. I think if you bowl that tournament enough times, you're going to have a stinker, and that was by far, if I could have one do-over, Tulsa would be the one. I could kind of deal with a couple of the other 1700s, but that was the one and they were freaking easy that year too. Scores were high, and it was just like, that was just horrible.
Well, and that just goes to show how consistent our guests are, because we had Ron Vokes on 2 days ago, and I asked him something about his consistency and what it takes to have that consistency at the Open Championships. And he said basically what you just said. You said you went to the tournament, you weren't throwing the ball well, you missed a lot of spares. And Ron said, you got to practice and make sure you're sharp. If you're not bowling well when you get to the Open Championships, you're not going to have a good year. And make your spares. That was exactly what Ron said. So you guys, verbatim, just in a different way, said the same thing. Yeah,
because that's, and that was one thing I prided myself a lot after that, because I was like, after that tournament, I was like, I can't allow myself to show up at tournaments like this anymore. So, and like I said, there was only one other that I remembered where I wasn't as sharp, and actually that was 98 in Reno, because I was actually working the USBC Open Championship that year, and I just wasn't doing a lot of bowling. I just kind of was a little burned out and just kind of wanted to, just try to learn a little bit more by watching. And so I wasn't really very sharp. I think I was probably like a 1780 year or something like that, or something 1770, somewhere in that range.
1738. Yeah.
Okay. So, but other than that, I mean, most of all those other years, though, I really tried to make a very conscious effort to be ready and be prepared, at least, making sure the physical game was good, and, at least tried to, get my equipment to where it made sense. I mean, like anything else, as you get older, you kind of wish you kind of knew then what you know now.
Right.
And I wish I knew about bowling balls then as I do now. But I mean, it's you do the best you can, and it's about all you can do, really. So,
well, let's jump ahead then. We'll stay in the same building, the National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada, and we'll talk about bowling balls, specifically the purple V2 Clean. What can you tell us about that ball and that building?
There's actually a little story about that whole back job. I mean, if you got time, I can tell you the story about it. What I've been doing in the last couple of years prior to that is Bill Calhoun had worked the Ebonite booth at the time, and he'd laid out a couple bowling balls for me, and I'd had pretty good success with them. I think in I think it started in 01. I think he started there, and I think I had like good 1900 or something like that, and then bowled well in 02 and then 03. Well, 04, I said, hey, well, Bill, what do you think I need? He goes, I think you need a V2 clean. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll drill it. Well, the first one he drilled was actually a 15 pounder, and he forgot that I was, through 16. So he ended up drilling me another one. So I ended up, yeah, exactly, man weight. So
that's what I was thinking.
So I take this ball, and the Bowler's Journal was at Starlight Lanes, across the way that year, and that was the year that they were actually pretty soft for the BJ. So I take the ball, I go to the BJ, and I'm like, the ball feels good in my hand, but I'm like, I'm throwing this ball on the, basically like the house china, and this ball, I couldn't throw a double with this ball. I probably bowled like 3 games with it, and I'm like, this ball's terrible. I'm like, I literally could not throw a double with this ball. I'm thinking to myself, really, this is what you gave me, Bill, huh? Okay, all right, well, that's all right, that's fine. So, so we go to the stadium, and we start out on the fresh on the team event. I think I shot like 190 on the fresh, but then I went to that ball, and all of a sudden it was like, I think it was like 230, 250 or 240, 250. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. And then we went to doubles and singles, and then shot 680. I think it was like 687 in doubles, and then we moved pairs, and we were about like 3 or 4 frames ahead, and we were crossing with some of my teammates, and I was kind of noticing, because I was bowling doubles with Norm Titus, and we were about 4 frames ahead, so I'm kind of watching the pair, and we were finishing pretty deep by the time we got done with doubles, so we were on 17 and 18, so we're going to 19 and 20. And I'm watching they're farther right, and I'm thinking to myself, I think we probably need to move back right, and I always said, moving back right is one of the hardest things to do in bowling, is to try to move back right. But I feel like we kind of need to do that. So I moved like a 4 and 2 right, and first shot, didn't throw it good. I went Brooklyn. And then the next shot, I moved to the left lane, and then went flush, and I moved back, and then it went flush again. I'm like, okay, it's game on from here. And, the ball, I used that V2 clean, and and then the rest was history. And I really don't remember a whole lot of shots from that set, but I do just remember looking up after I threw the last shot, and I turned around, and there was a lot of people in the background. There had to be at least 200 or 300 people between the stands and crowding, on the concourse area right behind, because being 19 and 20, that was right, almost kind of right near where the stands really were in where they kind of where they started, or kind of like a little bit off center, and yeah, there was just a lot of people, and
well, let's paint a little clearer picture here for the folks who may not be as familiar with what transpired at the 2004 USBC Open Championships. That year, there was 1-800 at the entire event, and there was 17,000 teams almost, so quite a big number. Lots of bowlers there. 1-800 the entire year, and it was what Mr. Janawicz just described. And that number wasn't just 800, it was 858 at the time, the highest 3-game series at the USBC Open Championships, which was held for the first time in 1901. So big history, 1-800 the entire year. And not to be outdone there, it was done on the infamous twister pins, which are plastic pins and arguably incredibly hard to knock over as well. So what you did there was phenomenal. You mentioned already the 687 in doubles, the 679 in team event, both great scores, and then 858 with a 300 game. So one of less than 40 bowlers in history now with a 300 and an 800 at the OC, but to bowl the only 800 of the year, and then to go on and win regular singles and regular all events for your first 2 Eagles. 22-24 was the number. That was a photo of JJ right after that score was shot. So that puts things in a little bit different perspective. Tell us the feeling of those pins falling. That's phenomenal. And for 858, the only 800 of the year, it had to be magical, as you described, right underneath the stadium seating there. So no doubt, anyone stringing strikes, people are going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, it really was an unbelievable. And like I said, I don't really remember a lot from it, because I wasn't really bowling that great at the time, but I had worked with Randy Stoughton at the training center. Like I said, literally like right before we left, and he gave me a few things to key on. And all of a sudden, it's like the physical game just clicked. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, so I bowled for like 2 or 3 hours just straight, just to try to hammer this in. And so now by the time I got to the stadium, I knew I was bowling pretty well. And, we got to that set, and I really don't remember a lot of shots from it. The only things I remembered was I remember tripping the 4 for 300. Yeah, I remember the flat 10 in the third frame of the second game, and then went off a sheet for 279. Remember the smash 7 in the second frame of the last game, and I was going for 280. And then I remember went really light on the first ball in the 10th. I got one right, and it came in the light, struck, and aced it in the 11th. And then I moved again, and I flat 10 in the last ball. And I remembered, like, nope, it's time to move. Oh no, we're done. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. And I turned around, and like I said, I remember I hugged Eric Pearson, and that's about all I really remember. It's just kind of one of those, you just kind of get in those zones, and that was about it, really. Just try to stay ahead of the move, because that was really kind of the thing I remembered was there was a couple times where I didn't stay ahead of the move in doubles and singles, and I 4-10 and I 4-9, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I will not hit the nose this set, and I didn't. So that was really kind of the theme was just every time I went flush, automatically move one, regardless of what happens, and that's why I just kept doing that. And 8-4 later over 3 games, that's where I ended up being. So but yeah, I was still amazed to be able to strike that much, with those pins and and the lanes and everything. Looking at 6 arrow, yeah, I mean, I never would have dreamed that. And not many people know it either, too. But that was actually my second sanctioned 800 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow. As is tradition, did you walk off the lanes thinking that you left some pins out there as well, or did you feel like you pretty much got them all?
Yeah, not that set. In the doubles, yeah, a little bit, and in the team event, I started with 190. I just kind of didn't feel real comfortable, but. Yeah, I think I kind of maximized for the most part about all I could get for 9 games. So as a whole, though, definitely nothing on that last set. I actually threw a lot of good shots in that last set. So
now you'd had a lot of success to that point, so it was not unusual to get a little bit of attention. But can you describe kind of what came with that set and that number, and what followed as far as the media and the attention and of course. Having to wait it out. We're kind of in the infancy of online leaderboards and things. So watching the scores was a little bit easier, but what transpired in the months that followed, and what was it like for you personally, just waiting to see if you in fact were going to take home 1 or 2 Eagles?
Yeah. I mean, it was really a cool feeling. I mean, to be able to come home and, you get all these, all your friends congratulating you and whatnot. And, I can't believe you did that. Yeah, I can't believe I did it either. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just it was really, really cool. Local media got involved, the local papers here, and then, obviously Bowler's Journal. And, but yeah, waiting out was by far the toughest thing. I mean, those were big scores. I mean, I think I won the all events by like 90 that year, and, won, singles, I want to say by like around 60 or something like that. But still, like anything, I mean, if I did it, somebody else could. So I mean, it was definitely out there to be done. And when you got that many bowlers, you got 85,000 bowlers, going through the turnstiles. I mean, somebody is going to have their day of the day of their life. Everything's just going to fall into place. They're just going to fall right into it, and away you go. But yeah, it was really quite cool for those following months. So and it was just great though to be able to finally get the call from, I think it was Brian Lewis at the time. And, to be able to get the Eagles too at the Florida State, the Jamboree, that was really, in front of more of your peers as well too. Really, definitely one of the highlights of my life by far. So.
Now, you also got to have a unique experience the following year, going into Baton Rouge. It was a build year for us, so we were in there a little bit early, putting the lanes in the convention center. You got to come in and kind of get paraded around a little bit as a celebrity to promote the tournament, to talk to the local folks. Got to go to the LSU football game, I believe, as well. And so I imagine that was a pretty neat experience. Kind of before the event even starts, the eyes are on you, and Just tell us about that, and kind of, again, that's part of what came with the experience. It wasn't just pulling the score and winning an eagle. There was so much to it. And then, of course, you had to come and defend your title too, or titles.
I got to bowl a local, like a local exhibition match locally at I think it was the old Don Carter All-Star Lanes over in Baton Rouge. And I went to a LSU football game. That was fantastic. Got to be in the skybox, and then got the whole presentation going down center aisle, and you get the all the introductions and everything, all the stops, and everything was so great. And then went right out the first game, a team event, shot 140 and laid an egg. So I mean, it was just one of those things where just everything just came to a crashing halt. With a record just kind of just stops. I mean, that's pretty much was that. That next hour was pretty painful after all the introductions, though. But still, it was unbelievable experience, and was definitely very thankful. Thankful for USBC for that experience. Being able to set all that up, and it was just it was great. I did bowl better after the 140 game, though, so did make a recovery.
And your performance also gained you Bowler of the Year honors, Amateur Bowler of the Year. So we got to present that award to you and kind of parade you around a little bit. I bet a few of the people who might have been there to watch might have stepped out after that first game, but we still had some fun that year. And before we move on too far from 2005, Daniel, any thoughts on that number and those twister pins? I don't know that you've had any experience with them, but from your analytical brain, just any thoughts on being able to fathom the number that was put up that year?
As a bowler who could count on one hand how many pocket 7-9s I left in my career before taking my league to a different bowling center 2 years ago here in Louisville, and then bowling league on twister pins, and having probably left 15 of them in that league, I can tell you that when you say you left 4 9s and 4 10s on those pins, it doesn't surprise me one bit. And the one thing that I kept trying to stress to my teammates is, all right, guys, you want to be light pocket on these pins. If you're high flush, you're not going to carry. You've got to get that thinking out of your head. And you knew that, obviously, with the moves you were making. You didn't want to go high flush. If you went flush, you were moving. So it's amazing that you got to 858 on a non-house shot, not China, on a demanding pattern with those pins. I can't fathom shooting a number that big. Our last week of league before all of this worldwide pandemic hit a couple months ago, I managed to shoot 805 in that building. And it's one of my 800s that's at the top of the list because of the house I did it in on the pins I did it with. I can't imagine getting a few more hits to get to 858. That's unfathomable.
And like I said, I tripped the 4 on that last ball for 300, and that was also kind of the other indicator I knew that, wow, my ball's really doing the right thing here. If I trip the 4 on that, I'm like, just keep going left, and just hope for the best, and that's all it ended up being, really. So.
All right. Well, now that experience seems to have jump-started some things for you in your bowling career. Not long after was the start of your run with Team USA, an amazing 9 years to this point. And still going. Again, you're a member of the team after winning team trials in 2019. Tell us about the progression from the two Eagles, the confidence that you must have had at that point, and then really getting going with the international competition and Team USA. And it kind of did that moment change things for you as far as direction a little bit?
Well, yeah, I bowled the team trials, or back then it was the US Amateur Championship in 97 and 98, or 96 and 97. And I didn't bowl it for all those remaining years because, like I said, I went to work for Kegel in 98. And, I was going to spend some time focusing on, what was beyond the foul line and try to see if I could learn more there that could maybe help translate into my bowling. So I didn't bowl really actively a lot from, at least from like a national standpoint, from like 98 to about 2002. But then I started to get to a point where I was like, starting to learn some things. And, when I was on, working the lanes on tour, you start talking to the ball reps, you start picking up more things. You start watching the best bowlers in the world. You see what they do. And you start thinking to yourself, maybe I can start applying some of the stuff. And then that's where it kind of slowly started with, won the Eagles. And then also I'm like, man, I really enjoyed that, bowling the team, the US Amateur Championship in 96, 97. Let me see if I can try it and see if I can, have some success. And, I've bowled every year since 04. And, it was 07. I bowled 3 years. I didn't make it until 07. I finally made it. There it is. So, and finally made it. And, that was definitely one of the best experiences of my life there. Especially we were back in Colorado Springs there, and being with the whole U.S. Olympic Training Center. That place was really, really special, and it was really, I was really fortunate my first 2 years, because I made it in 2008, and also that was the first year that the pros were allowed back or allowed on Team USA. So I was able to kind of see the last year of all the the non-PBA, and then the first year of everybody all grouped together. So my first 2 years were to me, at least for me, extremely special. So, and then just tried to keep staying active, keep supporting the tournament, and just try to get to the point where it's like, let me see how far I can go, and what I can do with this. And Team USA program has been great to me, and I get no complaints whatsoever.
Well, now something both of you guys have in common, and I know I get chills, and I just get the staff jacket, but what does it feel like to put that jacket on for the first time with the USA? Got the flag behind you. JJ, for you, it was both of you guys. It was Colorado Springs. It was pre-ITRC in Arlington, Texas. That's now the home of Team USA. But Colorado Springs is where all of the Olympians, all the athletes train, and you got to be a part of that. But to finally realize that dream and put that jacket on, can you describe it for us?
It really is hard to describe. I mean, I remember, going through, some of the hallways and whatnot. You can see the gymnast train and whatnot, and then you go into the mess hall or the cafeteria, and all of a sudden you start seeing the skiers come in and whatnot. I'm like, wow, this is really this is it, huh? I'm thinking this is where it all happens, and especially to be able to hear the national anthem on the podium. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to get a few gold medals, in some of the zone championships and the other some of the many other events. I've been fortunate enough to be able to bowl. So there's nothing quite like that, and I've always cherished those moments. Some of the Team USA moments have been definitely some of the most special in my life by far.
Well, now by the end of that year, you had the opportunity to stand atop the medal stand on the podium with a gold medal around your neck. And again, just a couple of years removed from walking out of the banquet with an eagle in each arm and the Florida Hall of Fame dinner. Can you even compare the two? Does one stand out, or is it just totally different for you?
I think they're pretty different in a way. I mean, to me, I think they're both of very, very equal value. But I mean, obviously one's more of an individual event for the most part. Where a little bit more of some of the Team USA events tend to be a lot more team focused. With more doubles and trios and whatnot. And you've got all your teammates there, and you're there for a week or sometimes 2 weeks, like for World Championships. So where USBC is usually only there for a couple days. So, but to me they're both on very very high levels for me. But like I said, the team the Eagle was the two Eagles in Reno were first. I mean, those were especially special. But yeah, gold medal is definitely right up there though, by far.
All right. Now, after that, you had continued success with Team USA and at the Open Championships. And then within a few years, it was time to make some changes at the OC. You've been, loyal with the same group and some variation for many years. And then around 2012, things changed a little bit. Teams changed around. And then you put together a bit of a Florida dream team almost. And then some special things happened back at the National Bowling Stadium. 2012 was a good year, but 2013 was where it really got special. This is the goosebump moment coming. But just talk about kind of shifting gears as far as teammates and going to the different group and kind of what the goals were with doing that.
Yep. Well, John Gaines had actually been trying to recruit me for a few years before I actually went on board in 2012. And he'd been trying to get me on. He'd been trying to put together this team to basically, try to, recreate the Lodge Lanes legacy, basically, from when he'd won those Eagles with Barnes and Healy and all those guys in the late 90s. And he'd been trying to recruit me for a few years. And like I said, he'd also been trying to get, guys together, that he also felt would gel and work well together, communicate together. And most importantly, guys that would actually, like to hang out with each other, would like to have dinner with each other, because goodness knows, I'm sure, you bowl with guys with, they could be really good bowlers, but, do you really like them that much? Or, do you really want to go to dinner with them? Not really, So, he wanted to try to get a group of guys that checked all those boxes. And, it just got to a point where, with some of the teams I'd bowled in the past, where I was like, do I want to do this? But being that, he was in Florida and he told me like I'd be bowling with Vernon Peterson, obviously I work right side by side with, and with Scotty Newell and guys like that. And I'm like, yeah, I think that I just felt like it was time to, time to try something different, time to get on board and see what we could do. Cause, I'd won both of the individual Eagles, but it would be, I thought to myself, it would be cool to be able to win a team Eagle. And I got to admit, the 858 was really cool, but actually the team Eagle actually was, to me, actually the favorite of the three, honestly, because you get to share it with four other guys. And that to me, that was really, really special.
Well, that day in general, we had John Gaines on the show earlier in the year here, and we recapped it pretty well. But just that day from start to finish was one of the most memorable, and for a lot of us, being able to be in the building. And we're going to talk about that. You saw the team there. Mitch Dubinsky, his first title came in 1987, a team all events title. So a ton of experience on that team. He's approaching 50 years now. Of course, we talked about John Gaines and all of his success. Scotty Newell was a PBA champion already. And then Vernon Peterson, his record speaks for itself in the non-professional ranks. And then, of course, the anchor man, John Janawicz. And really anybody could have been the anchor bowler on that team, but you got the honor. And you talked about how things gelled. Everybody got along, communicated. You guys live, except for Mitch, who lives in Michigan, you guys live near each other. You have the ability to practice and talk and bowl other events, state tournament. But the way things fell into place that day and unfolded, and it came down to the 10th frame. You guys were, of course, as you mentioned, looking for the team title, the team Eagle. That's pretty special. And John Gaines and Bob Gorky and those guys, it's understood how prestigious those team titles are. And you guys went out and put on such a show. And then it came down to the three shots in the 10th frame. Whether or not you knew what was happening, you guys were going for the lead. That's it. You can't win if you don't take the lead. That's the most important thing. But you delivered in the 10th frame three of the most incredible, inspirational shots that I think any bowler could throw to break the 20-year-old 3-game score for the team event by one single pin. You guys walked out of there as the record holders and the leaders at the event. And I know we're going to look at those three shots here in just a minute. But tell us about that day, those moments, and leading up to that 10th frame and knowing that you were the guy that was about to deliver in that situation.
Well, I knew we had a pretty good look, watching, the way we started. I mean, we bowled a pretty good game to start out with to begin with. So I knew we had a pretty good chance. I think a lot of it was just going to be, can we keep up with transition? And, just as long as we keep the communication of, what we need to do. And we had a good game plan going in, on top of that. So, I mean, everything just kind of worked out. And it was getting to the point where the last few frames, they were starting to transition again. So we were not going to say we weren't panicking by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, like, we could see that, lanes were starting to go through another, that next transition, we're going to probably have to maybe jump a bigger zone. And, we made a few changes there near the end, and we were able to figure it out. And I mean, I didn't know what I needed. I mean, I wasn't looking up at the totals or whatnot. So I had really no clue, honestly, what we needed. But, like, I just try to, compartmentalize it where, if I get all three in the 10th, if I just make one good shot at a time, then, whether we're short by a pin or break the record by a pin, I mean, that's all I can do. So, just go one shot at a time and just kind of really simplify it more than anything. And that's basically what I did. And, those were three of the better shots I've thrown in my life. I will say that. So.
Well, I know most folks aren't maybe the best with the bowling math on the scoreboards anyway, so I don't blame you. I know your goal every time is to knock down all 10 pins. I'm sure that was that's what John Gaines and everybody, they were telling you, just knock them all down no matter what. And by that point, they were done bowling, so I'm sure they had a better idea of what was happening. But when you delivered that final shot and you got the news, I know John kind of stopped you on the approach, whispered to you. and then the celebration, at least for the moment, began. Of course, as he explained to us, if you broke the record at that moment and didn't win the Eagle, then it wasn't quite as special. But talk about that particular moment coming off the lanes that day.
Yeah, just through the last one in the 10th, and that one was pretty good. Actually, I thought the one in the 11th that actually was the best one, but the 12th one was really good because I knew I had to keep inching in because the one in the 10th I got a little right quick and it went high flush, and I knew I had to move off of that, so I moved. I think it was like 2 and 1 off of that, and then I aced it, and then it was like same thing, flush, and then it's almost like the past Reno memories. If you go flush, move again. And that's basically what I did. I moved another one off the 11th. And then I got it a touch direct, but I knew that, the part of the lane I was going in, I knew it was going to stay on line. So as long as I got my feet enough left and started it deep enough in the lane, I knew it would be fine. And that was basically it. And then I turned around and then, John hugged me and said, we broke the record by 1. And I was like, that's where I was like, wow, it just kind of hit me right there. Like, really? And I think I might even said an expletive there, but man, really, that's unbelievable. That's great. And I was like, and that's, then the celebration kind of started from there. So yeah, that was some good times there.
Well, the amazing group, as part of the USBC Media Relations group, put together a highlight video, and they interviewed you guys. We're going to run that video right now, see if this brings back any memories for you.
It was clear pretty early on that Orlando-based Lodge 2 was having a special day. They fired a 12:06 in their first team
Still
game.
remember that shot.
And as they headed into their final game, history was in their sights.
Going in the last game, I said I thought to myself that it'd be nice to shoot 3,500. Really thought it'd be nice. But in the middle of the game, it didn't look like we were going to get to it. But we dug down and made a couple adjustments and made a run at it. And JJ threw 3 great shots in the 10th to snap it off by pin.
That's right. Needing 3 strikes to set the new team record, John Janawicz came through big time. A 35-38 team total. 1 pin better than the 1993 mark and the highest in the 110-year history of the event.
I knew we were in good position. I wasn't even looking at the score either. I mean, I knew we were in good position, to
Had more hair then. That's a bonus.
You just try to get every stick.
That was the one of the 10th right there. I got that one a little right quick. And that's why I could see where I gotta move off. Gotta move off that.
Actually, so but yeah, just trust in yourself. You make the 3 best shots you can, one at a time.
Now they'll watch the scoreboard one day at a time. This team is quick to point out that just because they set a record doesn't mean they've won anything yet.
It's a solid score. There's no question.
Right around there.
Obviously, it's obtainable. If we can shoot 35-38, there's a lot of great teams still to ball in this tournament. There is a long way to go. But I'll take that. Every year, all I want to do is have my picture taken. And we did that again this year.
I really hope it holds up. I mean, this team is 3 years, at least 3 years in the making. We've made some additions, we've changed some things, we've done a lot of homework, and we've really, all of us have worked.
He bowled great. His ball didn't strike. Scotty bowled really good. So did Mitch. So same thing. Didn't strike as much, but
probably the thrill I've ever had. This is what I bowl for when I come here to bowl. 41 straight years. I bowl with a great bunch of guys, and I thank all the 9 guys I bowl with because they're just great bowlers.
And great bowling. At least for now, nobody has ever done it better.
Now, Daniel, if you noticed there too, those guys also made a stop at the Hammer booth for some shirts after bowling before the photo session. It seems to be a good luck thing, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I did a little shirt change afterward, but yeah, like I said, it was that was definitely truly one of the special moments. I'll always remember, and probably one of the definitely the most special OC moment. And like I said, to be able to also share it with those those other guys. I mean, and to see the joy in their face after we did that, to me was one of the really great things that I always remembered. So, and to be able to also share that too in the team dinner that we had, like that night and everything, or, that's the stuff that, I always remembered. So.
There it is, the final scoreboard. Hot start, and you guys maintained that momentum and held on to win the Eagle, of course, the 2013 regular team title. And again, we mentioned this with Gaines. I had the opportunity to present those Eagles to 4 of the team members, as well as 2 team all events champions that very same year, Matthew Tuckfield and Jeffrey Merson. Seeing it through from being there on what was going to be a day off, believe it or not. Aaron Smith was running the ship at that point, and we handled our business just like you guys handled yours. And to finish it off by giving out those Eagles to some close friends certainly was incredibly special.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was great. Just a great experience all the way around. I said, just definitely one of those once in a lifetime memories that you'll always cherish by far. So
I got a question for you, JJ, about that set. When we had Dan Higgins on a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about when they set the number earlier this year, or excuse me, last year, and when they've been making their run, the Hickey's Aquarium team at Eagles over the last 5 or 6 years. He said, when we've set the number, let's say in team event, and then we get word that a week later a team has shot a big number the first game, we know they have no chance, because in today's world, at least at the OC, you shoot a big number game 1. Typically, you're not going to follow it up with a bunch of big numbers because you've jumped too far left too quick. You've blown up your hold. You've blown up your area to move. And games 2 and 3, you run out of room. How were you guys able to shoot 1,200 the first game and then maintain that with back-to-back 1160s and keep that good look?
I think looking back on it, I thought the lanes were a little softer that year compared to some of the years prior to. And, we used ball. One of the things, I think the 2 things we did was, one, we didn't use some of the strongest balls out there. I mean, like I said, a couple of us were using vibes. I mean, Vernon was using that gold, the gold IQ. Mitch was throwing a pretty strong ball, but like Scotty wasn't throwing one of the stronger balls either. And same thing with our teammates. And I think the other thing too was because they were a little easier on the fresh that year. We didn't all start in one spot to cliff wet drying. And I think that was probably the big thing more than anything, is because we spread out between the 10 of us in different spots, knowing that they were, a little bit easier on the fresh, and we didn't have to try to cut a hole in the pattern to give us something to bump off of. We just kind of spread out a little bit more. And I think that just kept them blended long enough. And literally for what I noticed, is when they were starting to get wet dry, it was like right around that ninth frame, right around that range is where like I was mentioning before, they were starting to go through that next transition, because Vernon started to get that those last couple frames there, because he was going for 800, and the ball started biting on him a little bit, and with his ball roll, if he starts seeing the wet dry, well, then I know it's definitely coming. So that's why I kind of started making the moves as I did in that 10th frame, the 9th and the 10th frame. So.
All right, now that was Eagle number 3 for you. Of course, looking at your resume, top to bottom, I feel there's no doubt you were destined for the Hall of Fame. But do you feel that maybe that's what locked it up for you? A couple of years later, you were standing up there making the speech and wearing that blue jacket. But do you find that this third Eagle was the thing, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think I was close. My opinion is that I think I was close. But I think the fact that the third Eagle, I think, was the one, on top of the fact that the third Eagle was also breaking a record also at the time, because the singles broke the singles record at the time, and then we broke the team event. I think between both of those, I kind of felt that not just winning the Eagle, but also breaking another all-time record. I think that was what helped. I think more than anything, kind of get me over the top. But yeah, I kind of wasn't really sure at 2 whether I'd make it in or not. I mean, I thought maybe borderline, but I think the third one really kind of helped. I think if anything, kind of helped nudge me over the top.
All right, and when you got that call that it was a done deal, can you describe that moment and the moments that followed?
Yeah, I got the call, and I was like, I kind of really wasn't really sure. It was like, really, is this? I'm getting this call, really? I'm like, what was that was I'm trying to remember. From New York called me regarding that. Frank Wilkinson called me, and he was like, when you're getting a call from Frank, you're kind of like, why is he calling me? That was kind of odd to begin with, but then when he told me that I made it to the Hall of Fame, I'm like, wow, hit me all of a sudden. I was like, wow. And, I actually kind of started reminiscing because it was like, when you get the call from the Hall of Fame, it's like, you kind of think, wow, that body of work over multiple decades finally paid off. It was kind of like what I was thinking, like, all those years and, countless hundreds of hours and thousands of hours of practicing at Shore Lanes, Merritt Island, practicing at the training center, it finally, this is it. It paid off. And it was really, it was quite a, I don't know if I said it was a relief, but like I said, it was almost kind of like a relief in a way. And it was almost kind of like, there was like a justification of like, all those years that you finally, toiled so hard, trying to make Team USA or whatnot, that you get recognized. And it was cool to get that kind of recognition. It really was.
Well, now, in most sports, being inducted into the Hall of Fame means that your career is done or winding down. And this was in 2018, but you're far from done. Certainly, as you proved months later at the 2019 USBC Team USA Trials. You beat a very, very talented field to win that event, to earn a spot on Team USA, and, of course, to go to the World Cup for the very first time. So I would agree that you still have plenty of success in bowling ahead of you. But to win that tournament after going into the Hall of Fame, to be the oldest player to do it at 46 and to earn that spot at the World Cup, describe that and what like the last year and a half have been like. We had some good trips. We went to Peru. We went to the World Cup in Indonesia. So it's been a pretty wild couple months since that win.
Yeah. That was 19 was a great year. I mean, that's for sure. Winning the trials, that had been something I've been wanting to do again because, Bill Hoffman, I'd always joked with him because, he won the old U.S. Amateur Championship twice. And he was the only person ever to win that tournament more than once. And I told him years ago, like, I want to win this tournament twice. And that was one of my big motivations, to be able to do that. And I know Marshall Kent did it before I did, but to be able to do it and to be the oldest was very, very special to me. And there was actually a lot of things that happened that week that really weren't the greatest and leading up to that event. But fortunately, everything kind of clicked while I was there. And it was amazing to be able to win that again, win another berth on Team USA. And then, had a great time in Peru. I didn't bowl particularly very well, but I mean, watching AJ and Darren and all those guys just crush them, and Sean. I mean, it was cool to me. I always felt like I was kind of, I was literally like watching the next generation getting ready to take over, and it was really cool to see, their progress and Team USA is going to be in good hands for many, many years to come. And, to be able to finally bowl the World Cup, that was always one of my bucket list, tournaments I've always wanted to bowl, but, obviously there's only one way to get there. And, to be able to actually bowl the World Cup and experience it was by far, definitely one of the highlights of my career. Wish I would have bowled better, but the trip and everything and being there, that was fantastic.
Well, we do have a highlight from that event. We were down there. It was you and Kelly Kulik, so two of the best ever. And we stumbled upon this memorable moment. As you said, there were some struggles during that week with execution and such, and just didn't go quite your way. And as proven here by this 710 live for all the viewers around the world on the World Cup live stream.
Yeah. I think that was probably that was around the seventh frame, if I remember correctly, and sixth or seventh frame. And I think I only missed the pocket. I want to say like once prior to that. And I think I had like 0 strikes. So it was. I felt that was justice. I definitely gotten tapped more than a few frames prior to that. And like I said, sadly, that probably was one of the highlights because I remember making I look back on that game, I'm like, man, I made the 710 just to shoot 160 that game. I'm thinking, man, it's a rough turn. This has got to turn around quick here, But it was otherwise it was a great experience, being able to go back to Palembang. Actually, I was there the year before twice because the Asian games that center had and Palembang had held the Asian games. I had actually gone there as a technical delegate to work the tournament, and to be able to go back now as a player instead of working the tournament was also made it that much more special. A lot of great people there that I met in the previous year in 18. So it was a great experience.
Well, now in your real life, with Kegel and you mentioned the lane maintenance, you do spend a lot of time in Asia. That's kind of your area of expertise. I know you love the shopping world in Hong Kong and all the places. And, in the 2018-19, you did get to spend quite a bit of time overseas in Asia. It was pretty wacky, I think, surrounding that trip where you were there, then you flew home, then you came to bowl, then you flew home for like 12 hours and then flew back. But just kind of describe some of that wackiness. And then again, of course, a once in a lifetime experience, but that's a typical month in the life of John Janawicz.
Yeah, that's the way that whole thing petered out was really bizarre. Because I had to work the Asian Championships in Kuwait, and I was going to be there for and then I had to work because they had the Asian Championships, and then there was going to be the the World Bowling event that was right after that, and I ended up working that, and I was there basically I think like 2.5 weeks. I think it was close to 3 weeks, and I was home for I think it was like 3 days or something like that, 2 or 3 days, and then I had to go to trying to remember it was quite the rough stretch here. If I remember, I had to go to Kuwait. I think it was not Kuwait, but Bol Palembang, and I was there for I think it ended up being like about 2 weeks as well. And then I got home from that, and as you know, that's a long trip back home, and it was basically like 40 hours back home. And then I got back home from that. I was home 8 hours, and then I had to go to the Philippines to work the SEA Games. So basically, I had to drop off, all the bowling balls and everything, and I already had the other trip.
That's my favorite part of the story, by the way. The suitcase already packed at home for the exchange.
Because I saw this, I packed it literally like about 4 weeks ago, like before I left for Kuwait, so it was ready to go. And I was home 8 hours, and then I had to go straight from there to work the SEA Games, the Philippines, as a technical official. And I was there it was like about 12 or 13 days there. So I just remember I was in the U.S. I think it was a total of like 3 days from October 15th to December 12th. I was actually in the U.S. 3 days. So it was that was a rough stretch between jet lag and people would ask me like, why didn't you take why don't you go straight from there to the Philippines? Well, the problem was I had all the lane measuring equipment, I had all the other different kind of things, and then the next thing you know, you're trying to take now I already checked like 3 bags, and then now I would have been checking like 5 bags. So I would have ended up checking 5 bags from there to Indonesia, and then 5 bags to the Philippines, and 5 bags back home, and then who pays for this? This isn't related to the World Cup, and I'm like I wasn't even going to deal with that. So I was like, we'll just go home, separate the trips. But because the way it worked out, I only had like 8 hours at home. I flew back at like 11 at night, and then had to fly out at like literally like 9 the next morning or 8 the next morning. So,
but I have a feeling, knowing you though, you love every minute of it. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
I survived it. There were some parts that were starting to suck there after a while, but the flying part, getting stuck in the airports, and just the long flights over, like 10 hours from Amsterdam to Orlando, and then you get all those 10 hours, basically from Atlanta, or it was like about 13 hours from Atlanta to Tokyo, and then you get all those other flights to Palembang, and then back and forth and whatnot. So that part gets old after a while. But once you're on the ground, though, it's not that bad. But at least the good thing, though, is once I got to the Philippines, there really was no jet lag, because I had literally just been in Palembang for 2 weeks prior to that. So at least that part, I was able to get there and pretty much be right on schedule. So at least that part was good.
And now the exact opposite. Now you're at home. That's it. You can't leave your house for the most part. But now you're home. Your neighbors who saw you 6 or 7 times all of 2019 have gotten to see you for the last 6 or 7 weeks. I'm sure your mom has enjoyed having you nearby as well. It's certainly different, but can you put into perspective the last couple months of being home and just being able to lay low and have some of that quality time?
Yeah, it's been fortunate because, it's great to work for a company like Kegel where, they didn't have to furlough anybody or, didn't have to lay anybody off or whatnot. We were still able to work from home. So, that made it, so much easier. And we kind of used a lot. I know I definitely used a lot of this time to kind of reflect a little bit and also kind of think a little bit about the future, think about, how I was kind of living my life right now, how I was living my schedules. I'm like, how can I make this better? Because I was kind of getting to a stage, or especially obviously after all those trips in December where I was just burned out and wasn't sleeping really good. And this actually, at least for me, was able to give me some time to be able to, reflect of, how do I want to make some changes with, how I, live my life and, how I, especially how do I spend my time more wisely, more than anything. And, being able to be at home a little bit more, was able to spend a little bit more time with mom, which she was able to appreciate. And, was able to also, spend some of the off time where, every weekend I'd be bowling tournaments. Well, now I'm home. So I was using a lot of that time to, get rid of a lot of clothes, consign some clothes. I was able to throw out a bunch of junk, in the condo. Cause when you're in the condo, all the time, now you really start realizing, man, I've really, accumulated a lot of crap over the years, and I'm like, I don't use this stuff anymore. I don't wear this stuff anymore. Why am I keeping this stuff? So it gave me a lot of time to be able to just kind of, minimize my life a little bit, get rid of some stuff and some clutter. And, it's actually been it's really been refreshing for me. And also to be able to work on things, at work where, where you're so busy with the daily work with tech support, with helping customers out and, working with patterns and whatnot, where now when that slows down, you're actually able to kind of focus a little bit more on like future projects and maybe, do some creative thinking, which, we don't always have that time, sometimes to do because, you're so busy trying to, help the customer. And that's been actually been a very, very nice area for me to be able to kind of do some more forward thinking and work on some future projects. And, I've actually been able to work on a seminar that, I'm supposed to do later in the year, which is going to have a lot more newer content in it. So it's giving me a lot more time to be able to do that. So for me, it's been great, actually. So I have no complaints on my end.
Well, I'm a little jealous. You're trapped there in Florida, trapped in Florida. You got the Florida sunshine. You got Sonny's barbecue and Public Subs right down the street.
Yeah.
I'm pretty jealous of that.
Yeah, we got a Culver's opening about like a quarter mile from my house too. It should be opening in the next couple of weeks, so that's going to be even better. So all we're missing is like In and Out, and I mean I'd be all set for life. So old sunny Polk County, Florida. So
I do want to send a big shout out to those of you that are joining us on Facebook as well as on Bull TV. Mike, Vince, Chaz, Jason, Drew, everybody saying hey, dropping in. What a great guy that JJ is. We do have a couple of questions from the Bolt TV chat, and both of them are about your office. So okay. I'll throw both questions at you, and you can answer them in whatever order you'd like. First one comes from our main guy, Emil Williams Jr. He wanted to ask about the Michael Myers mask in the background, and then Brandy Silva wanted to ask, what is your favorite ball in the office? Your office is pretty epic.
Thanks. As far as the Mike Myers mask, I've always had a kind of a thing with Halloween and Mike Myers. And, I was kind of thinking about, we at Kegel, we always do like a little Halloween, dress up and, they have contests for, the best dress and whatnot. And I was like, I think I finally pulled the trigger on the Mike Myers mask. And I always kind of felt like if anything, being in lane maintenance, that's kind of how the bowlers kind of look at me anyway, just some guy, just creepy guy back there just watching them bowl. So, I thought if anything, that's kind of the story behind the whole Mike Myers mask. We even kind of made it official too. We even made him, gave him a little official placard of, an employee card and, 40 years being the 40-year anniversary of, Halloween. I think when it came out in 18, because I've had that since 18. So, but as far as the bowling balls, I've gotten rid of quite a few. I do have the original OG Game Breaker down here, still undrilled. So that's probably one of the better ones here, even though I do have a couple of other, good gems here as well, too. I got a couple EPXs that are still undrilled. And, I got a few, dinosaurs from the Stone Age when I was still bowling, so, yeah. But yeah, those are probably a couple of the better ones that I have still here in the office.
All right, great questions. We appreciate everybody dropping those in both chats here on Facebook Live and on Bull TV. And as we get ready to wrap up, JJ, times are going to change here pretty soon. You're going to be back to normal. You're already back to work. What's coming up? What's next? Of course, you never did take the PBA route. You didn't do the pro thing, but the PBA 50 tour, is that a possibility, or kind of what's the outlook for you in the next couple months and years even?
Yeah, as far as the next couple months, I mean, hopefully, in Florida, we've started to open back up. Bowling Center started opening back up last week. slowly. And I guess, like anything, we're going to kind of monitor and see, the progress of the virus. And, if it, as long as it stays, steady on a downward trend, hopefully we'll open up a few more things and hopefully we'll kind of sort of get back to semi-normal. Tournaments, I'm not sure how, I haven't heard of any real tournaments going on. I think there's supposed to be one in Jacksonville coming up next Saturday, depending on how, things go and whatnot. I don't know, maybe I might try to bowl that if possible, but, we'll just have to see. As far as the future goes past the next few months, senior tour, I don't know. I mean, I definitely would like to try it. We'll have to kind of see how the job situation goes then. But if anything, I definitely want to, bowl, senior masters, senior US Open at minimum, maybe do the, the villages, the PBA stops that are here local, that'll be easier. But, like I said, if I get the chance, great. If not, though, like I said, but that's probably where, the Team USA part, that vacation will be parlayed into, into the senior events when I turn 50. So, definitely, I don't know how much longer I'm going to have here with, with Team USA, but definitely it's coming to an end here very, very shortly, regardless. So, because that vacation is going to be used in different ways in the next couple of years.
All good stuff.
One more quick question from the Bowl TV chat. This one coming from Coach Denny. He said, in regards to the Open Championships, in the 10 minutes of warm-up that you get before team event, how do you determine the shot that you want to use for game one? I'm guessing that means the angle, where you're going to play in the lane, maybe what ball you're going to use. How do you determine what you're going to start game one with?
We try to, fortunately, we bowl a little bit later in the event, so we kind of have a few friends that have bowled prior to, and, they kind of tell you, what they did or whatnot. So you kind of have an idea. And then, we get there early enough to where we kind of watch a couple of the team squads, just to kind of see what the ball looks like on the fresh. I mean, sometimes, you get some good players to watch. Sometimes you don't. But if anything, you can kind of see, how strong the ball comes off the end of the pattern. It's at least give you an idea distance wise. Okay, this is a little bit shorter. And like in the last few years, it's been a little bit on the shorter side of medium. So, we just kind of watch how short it's going to be. And then, you try to figure out from there, okay, we don't want to be too close to the middle, but then you try to figure out, okay, well, how far right can I go before, my ball hits a 6-pin right in the face? And, once you kind of figure out where that point is and down the lane, and then for me, and for our teammates, then you just have to figure out, okay, where do once you figure out down the lane where you need your ball to be, now you just got to figure out, all right, how do I want to get there from a straighter angle, or do I want to use more angle to get there at that point? Which is better? Which will give you more margin of error? Uh-huh. And for the most part, I've always been a firm believer that when they're on the harder side, which in the last few years they have been, I've always been a firm believer. You want to keep them, your angles a little bit more shut down. Wait till that transition happens first, and then use the balls that allow you to keep your angle shut down. I think that's where, a lot of times, where guys will bring their bowling balls from league, and, usually a lot of times those balls in league, they're meant to go long. They're made to be really strong on the back end. And you kind of need the opposite, like for the OC, you kind of need balls that are really, especially on the fresh, like for team events, you need balls that are a little bit earlier and are much flatter down the lane to allow you to keep your angles to be shut down. And then from there, a lot of it's just teamwork, just trying to, play a pretty close part of the lane to try to maybe help develop it. And then from there you can kind of move in. And then, once you see, that little bit of ray of daylight where, you see a little bit of hold and then a little bit of an area you can throw it to, then, then the swings loosen up and then you can kind of go from there. But you definitely don't want to start too far left. I think we kind of hurt ourselves the year before by doing that. I mean, we bowled a good first game, but then, we just kind of trapped ourselves. And, our guys at that time also, we weren't the best at launching gutter caps. So, we just kind of struggled to kind of hold on. But that's really kind of more of it is than anything else is, just try to figure out, how short the pattern is to where, obviously you can't play too close to the middle. So you have to kind of get yourself back, farther toward the outside. Then once you figure that out, figure out where kind of that OB range is, and then just kind of split the difference more than anything else. And then just figure out the angle straighter to that spot or more angle to that spot, whatever your game will and your talents will allow.
All right, now you've found yourself some new teammates since some rule changes. Another talented group. This year's event scheduled to start September 12th and go until November 21st will be our last team date. I know you kind of like Reno and the National Bowling Stadium a little bit. Are we going to see you guys? Have you kind of locked in when you're going to be coming our way?
we're trying to see if we can make it there. Like anything, now that we're moving to the fall, we got a couple guys that, they have pro shops, and it's now they're in the middle of league season. It's kind of hard for them to make it. So we're trying to see if we can piecemeal a team to be able to participate. Because I mean, that's still one of my favorite tournaments of all time is, the OC. So, I'd like to be able to go. But if we can't make it as a team, if we can't collectively make it as a team, then, maybe if anything, we might just, try to see if we can just get on individually onto people that are maybe trying to find a spot, perhaps, and, at least maybe go that way. But we are still scheduled next year for the end of June for 2021 regardless. So we'll have that team set for then. But we're going to try to get on. We're going to see what we can work out. But actually, we've been doing that this past week. John Trzynski's been trying to make calls and trying to figure out, who's in, who's out, who can, who can't, and see what we can do and try to find a date and see if we can make it happen.
All right. Well, big year for you, number 30. So hopefully we'll get to see you in Reno. And now before we wrap up today's show here on the Inside the OC, Daniel Farish had some final thoughts for you.
Yeah, JJ, something that you put on Facebook really touched me, and it touched a lot of people. And you put it out there on July 21st of last year, shortly after Junior Gold had wrapped up in Detroit. And you congratulated a lot of the players who had made Junior Team USA. And then you followed it up with the 4,000 plus remaining players. You're probably disappointed in your outcome and your performance or where you finished. And I want to steal about a paragraph and a half from this status and read this because I think people need to hear this. And you said, my advice to you, to the 4,000 who didn't meet their personal expectations, if you love bowling and you didn't perform up to expectations, don't quit. It just means you have to work harder. We all have to go through the same learning curve to get to the top. Not all of us develop at the exact same pace for many reasons, so don't get discouraged. Take it from someone who didn't win his first Eagle until he was 31 and didn't make Team USA for the first time until he was 34, but still made it into the USBC Hall of Fame by 45. Some accelerate up the hill at an early age, some in their 20s and some in their 30s and beyond. I was the latter. So don't sweat it if you had a bad tournament. You've got time on your side to still accomplish great things in this sport. And when I read that, it was before I had professionally met you, and that really showed me what kind of guy you are off the lanes. So thank you very much for that. I know a lot of youth players took that to heart. I had some conversations with some youth players here in Louisville who didn't meet their expectations, and I showed that to them, and it kind of opened their eyes to, hey, this isn't, this one tournament isn't life or death. I've got more junior golds left, and if I've aged out, I've got more Team USA trials. I've got the Open Championships. I've got so much more where I can accomplish great things in this sport. This one event does not define my career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the things, I mean, if you really look at, the amount of tournaments that you win in relation, and I did this years ago, just looking at my own tournaments and whatnot, and looking at history of, some of the great players like Walter Ray, guys that have won, entered so many tournaments, but, how many did he win? And that percentage, the percentage of tournaments that you really win is very, very small. I mean, it's less than 10%, and that's why I would tell a lot of the friends, like, some of the kids at Weber and whatnot, if you, at whatever level you compete in, local, regional, PBA Tour, I mean, if you win 10% of all the tournaments that you enter, you're going to automatically be in that particular Hall of Fame. And, I mean, like, I looked at my OC, I mean, I got 3 Eagles, but I mean, if you look at all the events of all those years, I mean, like, my win percentage is like 2%, and that's, I mean, if you really look at it and look at it that way, I'm like, you're not going to get a lot. You're not going to win very much. I mean, even if you have a great career, you're really not going to win, you're not going to win half your tournaments or, 20% or 33% of your tournaments. So, you have to really just, you have to really enjoy the journey more than anything, the little victories of, where you got a little bit better. Okay, I finished better than last year. Or, hey, I finally got a check in this tournament, or, hey, I finally cracked the top 100 in the USBCs or whatnot. You have to just kind of enjoy those small little victories here and there. And like I said, and eventually if you keep plugging at it and you keep working hard enough, like I said, for me, I was a late bloomer. I had some early success, but then, you kind of went through about a 10 or 12 year valley there where you just kind of, you kind of don't really feel like you're getting any better. But, if you keep plugging at it, eventually you'll get the pieces to fit, and it'll come together. Hopefully, it'll be a lot younger than I did it. But, there's always hope, like I said, and if you keep working at it, there's no doubt that, you can accomplish great things in this sport. And that's just what the message I just tried to relate to them is, I hope they have better careers than I had, and like I said, because, the kids today, I mean, they're so much smarter now than they were when I was that age, bowling tournaments like that. Technology is better, knowledge is better, coaching is better. I mean, players are smarter, kids are physically, fitter now than we were when I was in junior. So yeah, like I said, just keep plugging along. And like I said, eventually, it'll come to fruition.
One last photo I want to share real quick. Going back to that first eagle you won at such an old age. I can't believe I forgot to put this up earlier.
There it is.
Just in case people don't realize how many X's come with an 858, look at that board.
That's actually still one of my favorite pictures of all time too. And I was able to, Mike Donovan was able to help me get that to do that for me. And I thought that was really cool, especially when, we had the back, when we were in the convention centers like that with the old Family Feud scoreboards. Yeah, those were great with the clip-on eagles and everything. Those are fantastic, man. So yep, that's how I always remember. That's how I started my OC history with those. And like I said, so yeah, to be able to, have that picture and go through that experience was really, really special. I'll always remember that.
Well, we put that photo together. It was after the last doubles and singles squad of the day, so that was about 2:30 in the morning. We had the lane stripped. We had you climbing up there, and we were taking photos before heading out for the day. And when you put it on there just like that, that's pretty awesome. And of course, pretty neat that your first year as a champion, you got to see that orange eagle up there next to your name. Of course, not something that was Reno famous, but to do it and see it the next year had to be pretty amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, yep. I remember you were there. You were there too, man. I tell you, that was good times, man. That was great times.
So many good times over the years. And I was going to ask you guys if you had any final thoughts, but I think you wrapped it up pretty well there with some terrific insight and some great advice for the next generation. Of course, a future for the sport is what we're all about here at USBC. Appreciate both you guys. And of course, everybody for tuning in for this episode of Inside the OC. We got a lot more coming up for you on Bowl TV in the coming weeks. We have the PWBA podcast on Mondays and Wednesdays. We're on the air live every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Coming up next week, we've got Matt Wegan, the two-time Eagle winner, and Wendy McPherson, the first woman to win a regular division title at the OC. So always looking forward to talking to them about their success on the tournament lanes. We've also got the Sport of Bowling show coming up on Friday afternoon. So check the Bowl TV listings for all the times and details there. And wow, what a conversation. JJ, I think we broke another record. The longest, most informative podcast in USBC Open Championships history. It is always
dragging you guys mud here.
Always a phenomenal pleasure.
So yeah, thanks again for having me. And like I said, really appreciate you guys having me on, and hope to see you guys at USBC event somewhere soon. With the OC or PWBA. Hopefully we'll fire back up, and hopefully get to see you guys live soon.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciate it. Gentlemen, both of you, thank you for being here. Everybody, thanks for watching today. JJ, go get a cupcake, and we'll talk to you soon. Folks, you know the drill. That's the news for now. See you on the link.